Okay, so today we're going to look at normal mapping, which is a way of making objects look more detailed than they actually are for real-time 3D. So you can see in this Unity scene, I've turned on my shaded wireframe view so you can see the density of these meshes. You can see that they're at a density that's suitable for real-time 3D. If these had colliders on them, you definitely don't want them to be high, have a lot of vertices, otherwise it's harder for the computer to calculate all the different points of collision. So we use low resolution meshes. And but unfortunately they don't look that good in our game view because they're so low res. However, if we use a normal map, they will end up looking like this. This one is 13, and normal maps are these weirdly colored maps. Much more detailed. Let's do this one. This one is 16. And then this one. And that one hasn't imported as a normal map, so we just have to go down here and it says this texture is not marked as a normal map, and you can go fix now. And now we have a lot more detail on our objects. And of course you can change the smoothness to make it more shiny. Maybe if we rotate this in the scene, you can kind of see how amazing it can make a low polygon mesh look by making the normal map and adding that. So we're going to look at how to do that. But first, so let's go into Maya. These two examples are not my assets. They were on a project I fixed up recently. But you can see that these are incredibly high resolution objects. And altogether in the scene that I have, there's like 1 million vertices or something, which is totally inappropriate for Unity. So I'm just going to go through some of the tools that allows you to get the complex information from one object and turn that into a normal map for a low resolution object. So what we're going to do this complex one over here in a bit. There's going to be a couple of other tools I'll show you for that one. But for this one, seeing as it is a completely closed mesh, all you need to do first is you need to have a duplicate of the original, like that. So there's actually two on top of each other here. And there needs to be two. There needs to be the high resolution version and the low resolution one as well. And on the one you're going to make low resolution, you just go to modify, mesh, reduce here. And I'm going to reduce it by 99%. It'll take a moment. And here is the low resolution version of it. You can see the lighting doesn't look very nice. That's why we have to create what's called a normal map. So what situations might you actually have to do this? So if you want to create a really cool looking object and you're not going to use like the sculpting method that we looked at in the first class, you might use ZBrush, or you might be using Cinema 4D, or you might have 3D scanned an object like this one over here. Those are all, or even used like Autodesk Mudbox, which also creates really high resolution meshes for detailed sculpting. This is how you convert it for real time, basically. This is also what this tutorial is. So you've got your low resolution duplicate, and what's important here is that we're basically taking the lighting information on this object and projecting it onto this object, and that saves as an image file that uses the same UV coordinates as a texture file, except the colors on that image represent the direction that light should reflect off the object. So if we look, here is a normal map here, and it looks like a cool color map, but actually the red, green and blue values in this image represent different angles of light. So if I'll just create a new document here, and so if we imagine that we are looking here at a flat face, say that's a flat face on a mesh. Normally, what's called the normal is the direction of light, and that is represented always going straight up. Okay, so if we go here, each of these faces has one sort of direction pointing out, and that's the way that the light should point out. They just have like one line. But when we add the colorful normal map, it, like, every different change in color represents a different kind of point of line or normal. So it could be bouncing this way, it could be going that way, it could be bouncing, one could be bouncing this way, and so on and so forth. So the different pixels representing different colors each become basically a direction of light, a normal. So that's what a normal map is, which gives it the illusion of more detail than actually is on the flat surface. So one way you can look at normals is if you select your object and go to Mesh Display, and then we go to Vertex Normal Edit Tool, and you can see the direction that the normals are pointing on your object. They're all pointing straight out, perpendicular to the faces. Alright? So I'm just going to move that one back and get out of the Vertex Edit Tool. And now we're going to create our normal map. We do need to check that the UVs are correct. That'll, I mean, it's not great, but that'll do, because they're all flat and none are overlapping. And the other thing, this is very important, you must make sure that both objects have a different material, because if they have the same material, the lighting from both is going to be in the material, so you end up with a sort of a weird double normal map where it has the smoothness of one mixed with the kind of square shapes on the other. So you must make sure they have a different material, and to check what the material is, it's always in your attribute editor. This one is Lambert 1, this one is also Lambert 1, so we need to go assign new material, Lambert, we'll call it Lambert 2. So we've got Lambert 1 on this one and Lambert 2 on this one. And of course, if you choose like a shinier material, like a Phong or something, that will also change how the normals are calculated. So let's also make sure we're in texture map view. So to bake is actually very easy. We just need to go up to our, see up in this menu we've got modeling. We also need our rendering menu instead. We're going to go to lighting and shading, and we're going to go to baking, transfer maps. And here you've got your target mesh and your source mesh. So the target mesh is the one we want to have the normals applied to, so we go add selected. The source mesh is the high resolution one, so we go add selected. They've got different materials, so that's correct. Now we want to have, I always turn this on, the envelope I put both. Envelope represents how far it's going to search for lighting information. So we just want that to be covering the one we're baking onto the other one. I'm going to choose normal map, and I'm going to choose a different folder for my output. That's going to be in my tutorial project, assets, normal mapping tutorial. We're going to go normals, and we'll go JPEG, just cause. Okay. And now there's some settings we want to have here. Map space, we want to have object space. We want to connect the maps to the shader, to the original shader we just set up. 512 by 512, we want to transfer an object space. Filter size, Gaussian blur, and yes, closest to envelope. And then we want to delete envelopes on bake, and we want to use geometry normals. And then we should go bake. We've also got high quality on, so it'll take a bit longer to calculate. It's just calculating that now. So yeah, you must make sure that both of the objects have different materials. Very important. You'll still get a result if they don't, but they'll look funny. Okay, so now you can see that my low resolution, I mean, it doesn't look exactly the same, but you can see that even though it is low res, it now has a normal map on it, and that's assigned to the material. High res, low res. It's as simple as that. You just need your high and your low resolution version, and you need to reduce it. Okay, now, so that's one example there, and that file has been saved into my tutorial project. And if we look at large icons, you can see that's what the normal map looks like there. It's been saved out. And that's what you go into Unity and you put in your material, you put it into the normal map slot. Okay? Here's another example that I'm going to use, which is a bit different, because one thing is different on this one. So first we have to duplicate that, and we're going to go, so there's two on top of each other there. We're going to go to our modeling menu, we're going to go mesh, reduce. Should already have 99% from last time. Oh, and something in the reduce menu that I like to have on is sharpness, which preserves the details of the mesh. So it'll be more dense where there's more detail and less dense where there's less detail. If you don't have that on, it'll be sort of uniformly, the geometry will be uniform, so it will have less detail. Actually, well, I'll show you that now. So you could go mesh, reduce. If we could put sharpness 0, actually it's quite similar, but doesn't matter. I'm going to do it the other way. Alright. And I'm going to do the transfer maps again. We'll see what happens. So, rendering, lighting, shading, transfer maps. Oh, we've got to make sure that they have a different material. So this one needs a new one. Lambert 21, that'll do. And a new material for this one. Lambert 23. We want, this one is the, just remove all of those. That's the target mesh. that. That is the source mesh. Let's look at the envelope. It needs to be a bit bigger. That's fine. And we'll save this as normals 2. And that should all be fine. And it's taking a long time with this one. And we'll see why when it's finished. Just gotta wait. I'm not going to cut this. It's too much bother, but you can probably skip ahead until this is done. And it looks like an absolute mess. Why is that? Oh no, I've just done that. If this ever happens to you, go to Outliner, select your perspective camera, and reset this to all to 1. I hate it when that happens. And then click on your group and hit F. Alright. So this is bad because the UV mapping hasn't been done. So if you go to modeling and you go UV editor, you see that the UV maps are bad, and that's why it isn't working. We'll just turn off the texture. You can see the red ones. So it's kind of calculating bits multiple times because they're on top of each other. So if that happens to you, I recommend you just go UV and do an automatic map. You can optimize this yourself if you want to, make these larger areas bigger. This is a quick way of doing it. Actually, I need to push that one back. Oh no. Oh, come on. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Thank you. Why is that gone? I have no idea. I'm going to have to do that again. Duplicate that. Assign new material. Lambert. Then FX, sorry, not FX, rendering, transfer maps. Got to check that the I need to check that no, I haven't UV mapped that again. So UV automatic map. Come on. All right. Mesh. Reduce. So now I have to double check. I've got yes, that's good, and the other one. No, I need to automatic that one again. Actually, you don't need to automatic map the high res one, but I've just done that anyway. double check the materials. I'm going to give that one a new material again, so I'm not using the old one. Both have that one as well. Okay, let's do this again. So the low resolution one is the target one. We put our envelope, that's fine. The high resolution one is that one. Then normals 2 and bake, and it's a lot quicker this time. And there we have the result. It sneezes. Excuse me. Alright, so there we have our result. Okay, now let's do something more complicated. Let's just get rid of these, we don't need them. I think I'm going to sneeze again. Oh no. There we go. Alright, so let's say you've done a 3D scan of an object. Here's an example of one I did ages ago. 3D scans are often very messy, as you can see here. Very messy thing with lots of extra information. So we'll have another bunch of tools that we'll look at. Because for doing normal mapping, well, actually you don't need to, but for real time as well, it's good to have closed meshes, and this one's full of holes. So we'll find some of the tools to fix those up before we do the normal mapping. So first of all, you've got this big blobby thing. We're going to grab the face tool, and we're just going to delete all of those extra blobs that we don't want. Now when we hit F, it's just this model. Now we want to rotate this dude so that he's facing the positive Z-axis. So we're going to, let's see, rotate on the X 90 degrees. No, negative 90 degrees. Yep. Then we are going to turn him around a bit and bring him up. Now the pivot's not in a very good space, so I'm going to go modify center pivot. Well, even that's not very good. Modify, where is it? Reset, no, don't do that. We're going to press D on the keyboard and move the pivot down so that it's kind of under him in the middle. There. Also going to bring him down in size. Good. Now, what we want to do is make this simpler. We could try to reduce it first. Mesh reduce. We probably don't want 99%. We could go like 90% for this guy. Yeah. Undo that. I'm going to make sure I save the original version. So I've just hit Control D to duplicate that. There's two of them now. I'm going to go mesh reduce. Actually, wait. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to I'm going to I'm going to do a cheat way to close off the bottom. I'm going to go edge. I'm going to double click to select that whole loop. I'm going to go Control E to extrude, but I want to extrude in world space, so I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to pull some down. I'm scale them in. I'm going to Control E again. World, pull them down, scale into the center. Do that a number of times just to fill this hole. Control E. R. W. Bring that up. Then I'm going to go mesh. Where are we? I'm looking for edit mesh, merge to center. Oh wait, I'm going to do one more extrude first. Control E. World. And W. Mesh. Edit mesh, merge to center. Okay, so then I've sort of got a closed thing there. Go object mode. I'm going to just cheat for the next one. I'm going to go mesh, fill hole. The only problem with that hole is that it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sided. So we're going to use our cleanup tool here as well, because the other thing with 3D scan meshes is that you might have weird bits of geometry that shouldn't be there, so we're going to go and use the cleanup tool. Mesh, cleanup. There's a bunch of things you can clean up in the cleanup tool. Can't see, where's that hole gone? Not sure. Clean up matching polygons. We don't need that. We want to fix faces with more than 4 sides. It will divide up those faces automatically for us. You could fix up all of these. Why not? This isn't a very important one here. Non-manifold geometry. We want it to click and delete anything that is non-manifold. That means not part of the shell. Or say if there's a single vertex somewhere floating in space that isn't attached to anything, that's non-manifold. So we hit clean up, and now it's in a state, I hope. Well, let's actually delete all of the history first. Now we will duplicate it, and now we will reduce it. I think we can do more than 90%. We'll go 80%. Oh, sorry, 95%. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that'll do. And then you can do exactly the same thing as before. So rendering, lighting and shading, transfer maps. We're going to remove what's there. We're going to add the lower res one. Oh, and make sure it has a new material, Lambert. Then we're going to select the high res one and add that one and make sure that that has a new material. We're going to check the envelope, which is too big at the moment. Alright, it has to be big. We'll save that as normals. 3. Normal map, object space, high resolution, bake. Oh, I mightn't have done the UVs properly, so this might not work. Oh no, wait. No, I don't want to change the UVs for a reason I'll explain in a second. It's already been UV mapped. Waiting. The reason I don't want to change the UVs is because when you 3D scan something, it already UV maps for you. and this is the image that will go onto the form. And if I re-UV mapped it, this image wouldn't match up anymore, so we don't need to re-UV map a 3D scanned object. This might have frozen. No. Escape. Yeah, it hasn't saved it. I'll just delete the history of everything first. That might be affecting things. I'll try that again. Might just wait for it this time. While we're waiting, if you look at this example here, oops, remember that the normal map is different to the texture. So let's just go back to shaded. You can still put a texture on to your object. So I have a texture here that I pop into the albedo section to give it color. It's white everywhere except for the eye. That adds the color. The lighting here is just created by these lights I've added, so if I turn them off, you'll see. I'll teach you how to do the lighting later, but so the normal map is different to the color map. They're two separate things that you can have. But you can use a normal map as a color map if you want to keep your vapor wavy look, because it has those kind of colors that are quite nice. So if you apply it as a color instead of as a normal map, oops, I used the wrong one, you'll get that kind of shiny blue, red, green vapor wavy kind of look. But we just want that one. Let's see if it processed. It didn't, so I'm going to pause this recording and see if I can figure that out. Okay, I've found the problem. It's with my UV maps. When I created the new faces, they were not assigned, so it was calculating all the lighting on, adding the lighting on those faces which have been mapped to the whole square on top of the others. So I'm just going to try and clean that up now. So I need to find, yeah, I'm going to have to, how am I going to do this? This is a tricky one. Oh, I've just done the camera thing again. Ah, that is so annoying. Such an annoying bug. Alright, let's go into my UV editor. The way I'm going to do this is each of those faces, the points start here. So if I box select all of those, box select all of those, box select all of those. Oh, I didn't shift. And don't forget to hold down shift when you're doing it. They're not going to come out right, but but just for the sake of speed, I'm going to get them all out of here. Get them out of the way. Actually, if I want to, I can select all of those. There they are there. And I can UV automatic those and just get them out of the way. Wait. No. What I'm going to have to do is delete that one. I'm going to have to do that here first and then reduplicate the mesh. Annoying. So we're going to go UV, go select that, zoom right in and just select that, select that. Automatic mapping, your best friend when you're in a hurry. Alright, now we will get those out of the way. So we've isolated our problem faces. I'm going to select all those and UV automatic map and then scale them down again. And I'm just going to leave them there. Okie dokie, now we can, I'm just going to save my work. Now we can duplicate that again, mesh, reduce, we went 95. Okay, now we can do our transfer maps and this should work this time. So, rendering, lighting, transfer maps, remove the selected, we need to give that new material. I'm going to give a new material to this one anyway. I'm generating a whole bunch of materials, but whatever. So add the low resolution one, add the high resolution one, make sure that envelope looks correct. Yep, normals 4. These should all be the same settings. I'm going to go high again and bake. There we go. Ah, oh, no! Oh my god. It's because I'm like pressing the down the mouse wheel and Alt or something else at the same time, and it's making this happen. Okay, so that's our low res, that's our high res. So now what we're going to do is export our low res dude, file export selection as FBX. Yep, we're going to save that into my Unity project, assets, normal mapping tutorial, call it dude. Now let's bring him in. Dude is here. It's a bit small, so we'll increase the import settings. Oh, it's all the way over there for some reason. 0, 0, 0? What? No idea why that is not 0, 0, 0. doesn't matter. Here he is. So that's what he looks like at a low resolution without normals. Let's add them on. Normals 4, as the normal map doesn't look right, needs to be fixed. Fix now. Oh, doesn't quite look right. So I'd already done that for these, but for this one, you need to go back to the original mesh and change some settings here. So if you calculate normals, you can smooth the original angle. That's the first thing you do. And here on tangent space, we're going to go none and apply. Maybe we won't import. So just have to play around with these till they look right. Sorry, no, none. Apply. Oh, come on. Calculate. And then none. Alright. It's looking not so great because you can see this is the pixelation. The map is probably not high resolution enough. And then, of course, what's different is you add the texture and you've got the texture as well. You know, it kind of looks better without the normal map maybe. And also it's too shiny. It's not quite looking how I want it. Normal map, dude, import. No normals. Let's just bring them down into some different lighting. Often can't really tell until you've lit it properly. Yeah, look, it doesn't look that great. But that's how you do it anyway. Of course, the other thing you can do is, this is one I prepared earlier, from a very, very, very high resolution laser scanner. You can also experiment with adding normal maps that don't belong to your object onto a different object, seeing how that affects it. And of course you can also download from the internet sort of repeated or patterning normal maps for fur or different textures. Let's see if we can find one. Normal map. Oh, maybe there's a normal map generator. Let's have a look at that. Oh, they look like plugins, but doesn't matter. Let's just find something here. So you can see, you can grab all sorts of textures. Let's try these brick. Visit. Save. Save image as. Desktop. Normal mapping tutorial. Wait, no. Tutorial project. Here we go. Save that there. Let's see what it looks like with bricks. Very strange. You can see it, how the light reacts with it. Okay, so that's really it for normal mapping. And the next time I think we'll do 3D photo scanning so that you can make some interesting forms to normal map. Okay. Also this, yeah, I already set up the lighting in this scene to make it look nice, but we'll do that in another tutorial as well. Okay.